welcome back to my YouTube channel. Why are you miming my intro music?
The people need to know where it comes from.
But it doesn't come from you.
Yeah, but they don't know that.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel with Josh. Hello. And today we're doing something a little bit different because usually when lovely Josh is on the channel, it's a bit more silly, a bit more light-hearted. But today I want to have a not massively serious but like semi-serious conversation with you guys and with Josh about what it's like working in theatre when you are away from home, which happens quite a lot. And if you are wanting to work in theatre permanently as a career for the long haul, there'll come a point where you're going to have to deal with working away from home when you're in a long-term relationship like we are, or if you have a family, if you have children, if you have parental responsibilities as your parents get older. And it's not as simple as, I've got a job, great, I'll just go and everything will be fine. So I thought it'd be useful to talk about it not only from my perspective as an actor working away from home, but also I thought it would be really great for Josh to share his perspective as someone who not only works in theatre and other creative fields, but who has on multiple occasions had to deal with me being away from home. Haven't you, dear?
I have.
So that's what we want to talk about today. We want to talk about some of the difficulties that both of us have faced and also some of the solutions that we found, particularly on the tour that I've just come off of with the dresser, because I felt like both of us did a really good job of coping with those things. Would you agree?
Yes, I would agree.
Okay. You can say more than just one-word answers, dear.
Good.
I'm not forcing him to do this, by the way. I did ask him if it was all right.
Yes.
Let's start with you.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Okay.
So, without getting into too much detail on like coping mechanisms, because we're going to touch on that a bit later, do you want to just maybe tell the guys what it's been like for you on previous occasions and also this occasion when I've been away from home, kind of the difficulties that you've faced with that?
Okay. This time was probably a bit different because it was over 2 tours effectively for Michaela, so it was a much longer period of time.
Are you including the Unquiet Grave
I am
with
indeed,
that?
yeah.
Okay, right, cool.
Because there was obviously, as you guys know, there was Unquiet Grave, and then there was the dresser as well.
Just in case there's anyone who hasn't watched some of my previous videos, so basically in August I was doing the Unquiet Grave, which was a 2-hander show, and whilst I was away in that show, our housemate got COVID, so I couldn't come home for like 3 weeks because the times when I would have come home, it would have meant I would have had to self-isolate. So yeah, so I was away for a while. Carry on, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. And also the difference is that in the previous times you've been away, we haven't always lived together. So
That's
when you
true.
went away for a couple of your Christmas shows in the past, we weren't living together. When you were doing the panto, we were actually living in the local area.
We were then living together and I was coming home during the run because I wasn't like halfway across the country, so yeah.
Yes, which made a very big difference. But this was the first time we've lived together and you've been away for an extended period of time. So it was a bit of a first in that respect. But obviously for me, I was at home, Michaela was away, so I was, surrounded by all my familiar home comforts and things like that. But it was a different space here for one thing, because obviously when you're used to there being 2 bodies in the room and then there's just one, it does feel very different. And our other housemates were all away as well, so one of them was still away on tour, a couple of the other ones went away on holiday, so it really was just me here for a little while, which was not unpleasant and not difficult, but the house was definitely emptier and quieter, which felt strange. And in terms of how that made me just feel in general, it was quite isolating in a lot of ways. That's probably something I'd say happened quite noticeably, quite quickly.
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, and I think I've mentioned this to you as well, but if not, I've definitely mentioned it to like other people in my life. I do think it's easier in some respects when you're the one who's away, because you're the one who's going to new places, you're meeting new people. If you're on tour, you're going to a new place every week. So you've got loads of novel experiences to kind of distract you from missing your significant other or missing your family. It doesn't mean that you won't miss them, but I think there are a lot of things that can distract you, whereas if you're in your familiar place, especially with all of our housemates being away, you didn't have them to distract you kind of day to day. and you know you're used to where we live, you're in a routine, and so it's less of a distraction in a way. I do think kind of the loneliness you feel from working away, there are other factors other than the fact that, you know, if you're away you're more busy, so you're not going to get as homesick. I think part of that is to do with your personality. So I don't know about you, do you tend to get homesick when you're away from home?
Not particularly, no. To be honest with you, I don't really get homesick.
Yeah, that's the same with me. I've never got homesick. Like, my mum always tells me when I used to go on a school trip, she'd be like, you never called me, and all the other kids were calling their parents every day, and you just didn't care. Sorry, mum. But yeah, so I don't really get homesick. I'm fine with being away from home. I think also the kind of track or role that you're playing within a show can help. If you're a bigger part and you have more to do, you get more tired doing the show, you need more time to prepare because you've got more to do in the show. And so that can be more distracting. Like with my role in The Dresser particularly, my role was small, but with the ASMing, which was kind of a blessing and a curse, one of the good things about the ASMing is because I was in for more hours, you know, I had to come in and do stuff, so I couldn't just sit in my digs twiddling my thumbs being like, I miss Josh, because I had to go set some props.
Your role was actually quite involved in The Dresser, all things considered.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the big factor, and I guess it's kind of similar with you being in an empty house, is the people who are around you. So when you're working away, it's the company. In an ideal world, the company would be just basically a family. So you could go to anyone in the company and you have everyone fulfilling the different kind of in-person social roles that you're missing out on because you're away from your friends and family. Everyone can kind of fulfill the roles that your loved ones or your friends would be fulfilling for you if you were still at home and you could just meet up for coffee or have a date night.
All the roles?
Not all of the roles. No, not all of the roles. You know what I mean, right? You know what I mean.
Sorry,
just
I've
like
made this very healthy for you to edit, haven't I?
Yeah, you really have. It's fine. You've got people who you can go for like jokes and laughs. You've got people you can go to cry in front of when everything's getting a bit too much. You know, you have everyone. What I think probably usually happens is that you find like your core people within the company who you can confide in and who can confide in you. By the end of The Dresser, leg one of the tour, I'd found those people for myself and it made things so much easier. But sometimes, and it's never happened to me, but there can be situations where there's literally no one in the company that you can turn to on a social level for kind of that social, emotional, in-person connection, no matter how surrogate it may be, because, you know, it doesn't mean that every single job you've got to find the person who you're going to invite to your wedding. you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be like that deep for the whole time, but you need something whilst you're in that environment, right? Sometimes you might be really unlucky and not have that person, and I think that's when it can get really hard. That's when you kind of need to look after yourself, which is what we're going to get onto right now. Yay. So Josh, what did you do?
I was out quite a lot, actually.
He was out quite a lot.
I did see a lot of my friends in that time. I was out doing league stuff. I wasn't home nearly as much as I thought I was going to be. I went all to Milton Keynes twice to see friends. I was at my mum's for a little bit. I didn't actually spend a lot of time just sitting here unless I was like working and had time that I had to be here to do that work. A lot of the time I was just literally anywhere but here, to be honest with you. It's fine being at home when you know that you're going to work, but when it's like, okay, downtime or a day off or you've got a couple of days you don't have anything in the diary, it's almost easier to not be here, because then you do kind of take stock of how empty the house is and just how quiet everything is. That's how I coped.
So in a way it was kind of making yourself busy to distract you yourself.
Yeah, I'd probably say that's quite accurate.
Yeah. When you were at home during downtime, let's say if there wasn't anything going on or you didn't have someone to go and meet, did you have go-to solo activities that you'd gravitate to, or?
Yeah, kind of. I did play quite a few games actually in that time. So it was stuff where I could just, switch off and just do stuff. I did do a lot more work into later hours than I intended to, but I think that's not so much a coping mechanism, that's more of a side effect of being on your own. And when there's someone else here, your work-life balance is easier to measure, because you know when you get a better sense as to when you should and shouldn't be working in a way, unless it's stuff that you absolutely have to do or you have like a very near deadline. So exceptions are that. But when it's just you kind of lose track as to what's going on around you, so it's very easy just to sit down at your desk and then just, crack on with work until about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, if not later in some cases, just because there's nothing really to stop you from carrying on that late at night. That's what I found.
And do you think that was a positive or a negative, or like a bit of both?
Well, I got a lot of work done, so I mean that is a positive, but it's not great because it does obviously mean that you're then cutting into whatever downtime you do have, so it makes you more, so you're not getting the rest time that you need, basically.
Yeah, I can see how it's harder to, because both of us, I think, we can have sometimes workaholic tendencies, and I can see how being alone could exacerbate that because you don't have someone else being like, you need to stop, which is usually what I do. It's like, Josh, it's dinner time, stop working.
Make me food.
Hey! I guess for me, in terms of on an individual level, kind of coping mechanisms that I implemented was taking my ukulele with me, which I've spoken about. If you've seen the press night vlog that I posted, then you'll have seen that. But essentially taking something on tour with you that you can do, that you enjoy, that's part of your downtime. Another thing I did was buy crochet things, which was silly of me, but hey ho. Obviously having things like your phone and your laptop so you can watch things, interact with things online, but I think also having offline things or off-screen things is also good and important. So yeah, so that's one thing. The other thing is just giving yourself permission to get out of the theatre, and this is where the whole needing to be in for ASM duties like earlier was kind of a blessing and a curse, because in the times when I was like, I need to not be in the theatre for a bit, but it's like I have to be in the theatre to do stuff, it's really easy to be like, well, I'm here now, I don't really want to go off and do anything because I know I just have to come back. It's easier to be like, well, I'll just stay here. And that's where things like my ukulele came in handy, because I was like, well, I just need to kill time until I'm needed next so I can just play ukulele. But sometimes, you just need to get out of the building, and giving yourself permission to get out of the building if you have time to get out of the building. Obviously, if it's like the 5-minute call, that's probably not the time to get out of the building. But if you've got time, just overcoming the laziness, I guess, and being like, you know what, I just need to get out, so get out. Well, it's not so much a role. I guess it's like basically if you're not ASMing, or your schedule gives you daytimes free, because our schedule didn't really give us daytimes free. Kind of similar what you said with planning time to go and see friends. Plan time to go out and see where you are. One
thing I was going to say that I didn't do actually when you were away, I didn't have people over. I always went out. I never had people stay.
That's interesting. Do you think that was because of COVID, or do you think that was...
Well, we've had people over before, so that wouldn't... COVID was...
Yeah, I suppose.
COVID was a factor, obviously, but it was a factor before. I think it was just because it was just me here, and I would have rather just been out in someone else's space rather than bring someone else into what, to me, felt like a very empty, very quiet space.
Okay, that's interesting, actually. I guess the final thing, which is kind of what I do anyway, but kind of just making time to get back in touch with your actual friends and family and loved ones. Because I'm so okay with not being at home, in the past, I have, not really called, especially you, I guess because we weren't living together, like you said, in previous times. But, making an effort to call you and call my parents, and especially because I did have more bouts of homesickness, especially on the dresser. I felt the need to do that more, but also I think I was also more aware of you and being like, I know you want to hear from me. So making time for that. The other thing that I want to mention, which kind of is for both of us, I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, is actually making time within the tour for us to see each other. So when we were in Brighton specifically, I was staying with your aunt, which I guess could fold into what I did for myself. Obviously, I was staying with Josh's aunt in Brighton. I also stayed with my own aunt in Plymouth. This kind of depends on personality, because when I told some people in the cast that I was staying with family members, some of them were like, oh, that'll be lovely. And some of them were like, oh, that's a bit awkward. So I guess it depends on the relationship you have with your family members, or kind of family members in law, even though we're not married, so it's not in law, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It kind of depends on that relationship, and you as a person, like, do you want to keep business and family separate and, you know that you can just go to your digs and no one's going to want to talk to you? Or do you like being looked after? I liked being looked after.
I'm absolutely sure you did.
Especially on this job. Definitely enjoyed that. But going back to staying in Brighton, so Josh actually came and stayed with me for... It wasn't like a full week, but you drove me down, which was the drive from hell, which is a story from another time.
Oh, mate, we're not getting into
that.
That was too much.
But Josh drove me down and stayed a night, and then towards the end of the week, you came down because you and your family saw the show on the Friday, and then you stayed on the Saturday, and then on the Sunday we had time together to kind of look around. Yeah.
And it's alright, because I know Brighton quite well, and I imagine you got to know it quite well whilst you were down there.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
No, because there was no time. Because
Oh,
we got to your mum's on the Monday. Tuesday I was in the theatre from 11. Wednesday was a double show. Thursday was a double show. Friday I had understudy rehearsal. Saturday was a double show. So the only day I had really was the Sunday.
Okay.
And what little of the Monday we had to look around.
No, that's fair enough then. Yeah, okay, cool. But I know Brighton quite well.
That's what I mean about if you have a schedule that allows it, you know, making time to go out and see where you are. Because I think a lot of people struggled on this tour, even people who were like seasoned to touring, whereas this was my first tour, because they were like, you can't even see where we are. Like, usually you'd have like some day trips where you could go and see where you are, but there wasn't really time for that on this tour. For me, and maybe it would have been different if I had a less tempestuous time. I got really homesick. It's the most homesick I've ever been on a job, I think. But no, it's fine. Like, I'm fine. I'm fine. But I think so maybe if I hadn't have been as homesick, if this tour was the same kind of atmosphere that I had when I did the Nutcracker and the Mouse King, if it was more of that kind of atmosphere, I don't know if I would have felt the need for that respite so much.
You wouldn't have noticed it as much, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think I would have needed it as much. I think it would have been like, oh yeah, I get to save a little bit of money and I get to catch up with these people that I haven't seen in ages, because like, I can't remember the last time I saw my aunt because she lives all the way in Plymouth. So, you know, it would have been it'll be a nice opportunity to see these people, as opposed to, I actually need a homely feel. And I need to feel...
You need the feels.
I need to feel comfortable to be myself, because I'm finding this job so difficult. Do you know what I mean? I also think that if I'd found my people within the company sooner, maybe I wouldn't have felt it as much either, if that makes sense. Just because I remembered it while you were talking, and it was more of a what I did for myself point, but I've just remembered it. And this is something I say with caution, but I did shop. If you don't know me, because I don't think I've spoken about it on my channel, just trust me when I say I am not a shopper or materialistic person. Like, I don't shop.
She don't shop.
Dum, dum, dum. I hate shopping, but on this job, I shopped. I was meant to wear one of the earrings that I bought. So I bought some earrings. I bought and that's why I was going to wear the dungarees as well. I thought, this has all gone wrong. Yeah, so I bought some earrings, I bought a scarf, and I bought some dungarees. But what I did do was I bought things from shops that weren't chains. They were all shops that, like, I couldn't go to them in London and pick something up. I will never not wear those dungarees and not think of like, oh, I got these when I was in Brighton with Josh and we were having that lovely Sunday together and we went into that shop and found them. If you're someone who is a bit more of a spendthrift, I'm quite frugal, so I naturally don't end up spending like hundreds of pounds on stuff. But if you're someone who could easily like drop a lot of money on a thing, if you're inclined to go shopping, then maybe just set yourself like a budget of, in each stop, I can buy myself like one thing and it can't be more than this amount. That was long.
I didn't buy anything for myself oh no, I tell a lie, I bought a couple of games, but that was about it really.
One of the things that I didn't do, but other people did, was actually going home in between. Because our show days were Tuesday to Saturday, not Monday to Saturday, a lot of people, especially the people who weren't ASMing, so everyone apart from me and my friend Stephen, everyone who wasn't ASMing basically went home on the Saturday nights and then travel up on the Tuesday because they weren't called on the Tuesday till 5. And that's how a lot of other people on the tour coped with homesickness or loneliness, was actually just going home. I didn't. The only time I went home was between Cheltenham and Brighton, when I realised, oh, I can put things on the truck, so I'm going to grab my small suitcase and put my big suitcase on the truck in between stops, which is, I'm going to do the same thing for the next leg. But all of the other times I didn't go home. I went from venue to venue to venue to venue.
It sounds a little bit easier to do than going home, because when you go home at the weekend, it very much seems like you then have to like really motivate yourself to get to the next spot, because you're already at home, you're already sat down, you're already relaxed, and you can't really relax when you're there.
But then this is the thing with everyone else, because they weren't called early on the Tuesday. They would travel on the Tuesday to get there for 5 when we were called for orientation. If you get home the Saturday night / early Sunday morning, you've got all of Sunday, all of Monday, so they could have 2 days at home.
Fair enough.
If you've only got 1 day at home, I don't think it's worth it, which I would only realistically have the 1 day at home, because I'd be travelling on the Sunday home, stay overnight, and then travelling on the Monday to get there.
More.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it wasn't worth it. And also, I know myself, I find travelling really tiring. I wouldn't want to travel necessarily on the Sunday straight after the show, personally. Maybe I would if I knew that I could have all of the time. I think it depends. It depends on you as a person and your situation and what else is going on. And like, maybe if we were married and had a child, or just had a child, you don't have to be married to have a child, but you know, maybe that would be different. If it's something that you feel like, no, I'd want to go home every weekend, I think it's just being aware that it's going to be tiring traveling, and it's potentially going to be expensive, or you'll have to do things like traveling by coach, which takes longer. So, you know, finding cheaper travel alternatives that take longer, so you're spending more time traveling, or trying to choose the quickest way to travel, but then that could be really expensive.
The one last thing I probably would say, just from my side of things as well, in a weird way, the further, this isn't a negative thing, it's not a negative thing, it's something that happened, but the longer you were away from, the more use I got to you not being here, but also it then made me have to remember to call you.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Because obviously, when you've only been gone for a few days or for a week or so, then you still remember to call and everything else. But after a certain amount of time, you kind of think, I've not heard from you for a day or two, or you've not heard from me for a day or two, and that stops feeling like a long amount of time. So like, 1 day turns into 2, turns into 3, and suddenly it's like 4 days since we last spoken to each other.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've gotten a few things out of your system then now? Because I feel like this was something you needed just to talk out. I mean, I know it makes the content, and you agree, because you're going to like, subscribe, comment below.
Oh my goodness.
I had to get it in there somehow.
You did. That was very slick. Thank you.
But did you?
I think so. And I think it's important to, and I don't think this is something I ever fully appreciated, is that it's not always going to be easy being away from home. I didn't really appreciate how homesick I could get, because I've never felt that homesick and just wanting to go home. That does not answer your question. Yeah, I feel like I got stuff off my chest.
Good. So now we should probably end the video.
We should probably end the video. I
am falling asleep a little bit, I'll be honest.
Yeah, we haven't had lunch. I'm really hungry. Do we even have anything for lunch?
No, well, there's that one thing, a spag bowl left downstairs.
So, that was this video.
Yes, it was.
It was a bit rambly, sorry, but I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. And, you know, there was lots of other stuff that we weren't able to cover because it's not our experience of, like, if you have a kid or whatever. And I guess the one thing that I would say is, Josh.
Hello.
You know, you are a very supportive partner, and
oh, thank you.
You, like, we've never had to have a conversation where you've been like, I really don't want you to do this job, or I don't want you to go away, which is like a whole other thing, you know. And I think, again, partly because you work in the industry and other creative industries as well, partly because of just how long we've been together and stuff, you know, there can be things like...
I'd actually say that, considering how long we've been together, it might actually, for some relationships, be harder.
Yeah, no, that's what I was about to touch on as well. Like, I think it does depend on the person. It does depend on whether you want to have that more traditional, like, you're together all of the time doing everything together, or if you're able to have that more, not open in an open relationship, sexual kind of way, but like you're all right going off to do your own things and staying in contact and then coming back together. But yeah, I think we're just really lucky that, you know, I haven't had to deal so much with you going away, but I know that if something comes up and I have to go away, that you'll support me in that, and I would support you in that. I don't know how it would feel. Maybe that you'd go away and I'd be like, oh God. But, you know, I'm glad that we have that kind of relationship where I'm not having to worry about what will you think about me going away. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Josh for speaking so candidly. I hope you enjoyed his input as well. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. We would love to have you on the channel. Come on down. Also check out his channel, I'll link it below. It's not a collab, but yeah, check it out if you like Warhammer things. If you don't know what that is,
check it out anyway.
Check it out anyway. Stay tuned.
If you want to see Michaela being drunk on my channel 3 times, that's the place to go.
Try Again Bragg was not deserving of this world. Stay tuned for more theatre content from a UK perspective, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye friends!
Bye bye!